You stand on a beach and see a dark line beyond the horizon. Land, maybe. Between you and it is open water. There is no map, no compass, no metal tool, no engine, no rescue boat. And once the shore disappears behind you, turning back may be impossible. So how did ancient humans cross the sea before ships? The first correction is simple: they did not cross the sea without watercraft. They crossed before their watercraft survived wood, bark, plant fiber, and rope decay. A boat can cross an ocean gap and leave almost nothing for archaeologists to find. That is why the strongest evidence is often not the vessel. It is the people, tools, and animals found on the other side. Lower Ice Age sea levels exposed large areas of land, but they did not remove every ocean barrier. The islands of Wallacea, between mainland Southeast Asia and the ancient continent of Sahul, remain separated by deep channels. Reaching some islands required crossing water even when the sea was much lower than today. And the earliest evidence is far older than Homo sapiens. At Callao on Sulawesi, researchers recently reported stone artifacts in layers dating to at least about 1.04 million years ago, and possibly as old as 1.48 million years. On Flores, stone tools at Wallacea show that hominins were present at least 1.02 million years ago. On Luzon in the Philippines, stone tools and cut-marked animal bones at Calanga date to between about 777,000 and 631,000 years ago. Sulawesi, Flores, and Luzon were oceanic islands. Someone crossed water to reach them, though we do not know how. A storm, flood, or tsunami may have swept people away on natural vegetation. Or archaic humans may have built simple watercraft deliberately. The evidence proves arrival. It does not preserve the journey. Accidental arrival is possible for one crossing. It becomes harder to use as a complete explanation when people survive, establish a population, and appear on multiple islands. A lasting population needs enough people, including both sexes, or repeated arrivals over time. That turns the question from could someone drift there into could a group cross successfully. By the time modern humans moved through Wallacea toward Sahul, the evidence points more strongly toward planning. Sahul was the larger landmass that joined Australia, New Guinea, and nearby islands when sea levels were lower. To reach it, humans had to make several maritime crossings. At least one gap approached 100 kilometers. Researchers combined reconstructed coastlines, view analysis, ocean drift models, and population estimates to test whether random accidents could explain the crossing. Their result was clear: accidental drift was possible, but it was very unlikely to create a successful population unless unrealistically large numbers of adults were repeatedly swept out to sea. Choosing when to leave and making even slow progress toward a destination greatly increased the chance of arrival. The researchers concluded that modern humans could plan open-sea voyages lasting several days by at least 50,000 years ago. That does not mean they had a later historical ship. No sail or cabin was required. A seaworthy craft can be much simpler. It might be made from bundled reeds, bamboo, lashed logs, bark, or a hollowed tree trunk. Different materials work differently. A raft may be easy to build but difficult to steer. A dugout requires more labor, but it can be faster, more durable, and easier to direct. The exact boats used in the earliest crossings are unknown, but experimental archaeology helps test what was physically possible. In a study published in 2025, researchers built a 7.5-meter dugout canoe using replicas of Upper Paleolithic edge-ground stone axes. The canoe had no sail. A crew of 5 experienced paddlers took it from eastern Taiwan to Yonaguni Island in the Ryukyu chain. The direct strait is about 110 kilometers wide, but the canoe traveled about 225 kilometers as currents carried it off the shortest line. The voyage lasted about 45 hours. The crew crossed the Kuroshio, one of the world's strongest ocean currents. The experiment does not prove that Paleolithic people used the same canoe design. It proves that a functional dugout could be made with stone tools and that skilled paddlers could complete a crossing once considered almost impossible. The failures were just as important. Earlier experimental reed and bamboo rafts were too slow or difficult to control in the powerful current. That reveals a basic truth. Floating is not enough, you must control direction. Imagine preparing for a crossing. First, The craft is tested near shore. Does it leak? Can the crew keep it pointed forward when loaded? Can everyone paddle together? Then comes timing. Wind and current can turn a reachable island into a moving target. Leaving from the wrong beach may carry you past it. Leaving in the wrong season may place you in rougher water. A successful voyage depends not only on boat technology, but on accumulated knowledge of the sea. The ocean has patterns. Sunrise and sunset provide direction. Stars can guide travel at night. Ocean swells may continue from a stable direction even when local wind changes. Clouds can form over islands. Birds may fly toward land. A distant island may be visible from a mountain even when it disappears from the beach. We cannot know exactly which signs the earliest voyagers used, but the 2025 experimental crew relied on the sun, stars, and ocean swells, showing how navigation can work without a compass. Memory would be essential. Which headland gives the correct departure line? Where does the current begin pulling north? How long before the destination should appear? When is it still safe to turn back? This knowledge could not be invented in the middle of the sea. It had to be learned near shore, shared, tested, and remembered. Some voyages may have followed visible islands in stages. Others required paddling toward land that could not yet be seen. The crossing to Sahul was not one heroic jump. It was a chain of decisions across an island world. Reach one island, recover. Find water and food. Learn the next current. Build or repair another craft, then cross again. Evidence from Paleolithic Japan shows that some crossings were not simply one-way accidents. Kozoshima was a small island separated from Honshu by roughly 38 kilometers during the late Pleistocene. An archaeological assemblage there dating to around 38,000 years ago has been described as secure evidence of a planned maritime voyage. The wider Ryukyu chain was also colonized by about 30,000 years ago. People did not merely fall into the sea and wash ashore everywhere by chance. They were entering maritime landscapes deliberately. Still, the danger was real. A craft or paddle could break. A current could pull the crew beyond the island. Water could run out, or calm weather could suddenly change. Many failed voyages would leave no archaeological trace. The sea records successful arrival far more clearly, and disappearance. That creates a survival bias. In the evidence, we see the islands that were reached. We do not see every crew that vanished between them. Crossing the sea was also a group achievement. Someone selected materials, made cordage, shaped wood, understood weather, and carried water. Several people paddled together, and someone was willing to risk sending part of the community away from the familiar shore. The counterintuitive answer is that ancient humans did not need ships to become seafarers. They needed a craft that lasted longer than the crossing, knowledge that survived longer than one person, and enough cooperation to control both. The boat itself could disappear within years. The consequences did not. People reached Flores, they reached Luzon. They reached Sulawesi. Modern humans crossed Wallacea and entered Sahul. Later, they moved through island chains that demanded repeated open water travel. Today, satellites show us the destination before we leave. Weather forecasts warn us about storms. Navigation systems correct every mistake. Ancient voyagers had none of that. But they had something modern technology can hide from us. They had to understand the water directly. You stand on the beach again. The dark line is still there. The canoe beside you is rough, heavy, and scarred by stone tools. It is not a ship. It does not need to be. The paddlers push it into the surf. The shore begins to shrink, then it disappears. For the next day, the entire world is water, wind, rhythm, and memory. And somewhere ahead, beyond what you can see, is land. If you enjoyed this journey into the distant past, subscribe for more stories about ancient humans and human evolution.